Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun Deals, and today we're going to be talking about perhaps the best high-value LPVO on the market, which is the Vortex Strike Eagle, the Gen 2 version 1-8. But before we get into that, if you don't know, Gun Deals is just a website that compiles some of the best deals in the industry. They don't buy or sell anything or take your money. They merely provide you with links to the best deals in the industry. So whatever it is that you're looking for, you can probably find it on their website for the best price. So go ahead, check them out. Check out the UPC in the description down below. You type that into your search bar and you'll be able to find the gun.deals link. And on top of that, if you could like, share, and subscribe, because all of that sort of stuff is free and it helps out quite a bit, and go ahead and leave a comment down below to make the YouTube algorithm a little more happy. So starting off with my full disclosure on this optic, I paid my own money for this optic over a year ago. I've owned this for quite a long time. I've put it on a lot of different guns, ACRs, ARs, 7.62x39. Basically every gun that I've owned over the last year has had this optic on it because it is an excellent optic that flexes into a lot of different roles. I have no relationship with Vortex. They have not sent me anything. They don't know that I exist really. I just think that they do make some of the highest value products in the market. And if you watch my channel and on here on Gun Deals as well, I have reviewed some of Vortex's products, and basically in whatever price point they're at, they tend to be the highest value. So now let's go ahead and talk about some of the features and specs on the optic. The optic is actually black. I have it painted on here because it was on a green gun for quite some time. But generally speaking, the optic comes in a flat anodized black look. Now, if you have an Optics Planet mod, theirs can be FDE, and I think they're the only ones that have that option. But most of the time it's going to be black. A couple strong suits on the optic is it's only 10 inches long, which for an LPVO is sort of in the middle in terms of length. There are a few shorter optics out there, but not all that many. 10 inches is a really good point. But on top of that, this optic only weighs 17.6 ounces. So in terms of size and weight, I would say this optic is an A. Now, even though it is compact and lightweight, it still maintains all of the features that you would expect from an LPVO. 30mm one-piece main tube. It is 6061 hard coat anodized. 24mm objective. It has an illuminated reticle, which is quite good. We will talk about that later. Capped turrets. Integrated throw lever that is removable if you don't want it for whatever reason, but it is quite a stiff throw. It's smooth, but it's quite stiff, so I like to leave that on there because it gives me some more leverage. Rear diopter, of course, for adjusting the reticle to your eyes. Everybody's eyes are different. Mine are mostly good, with some bad. My left eye is worse than my right eye. The field of view on the Strike Eagle 1-8 is another high point. It has a field of view at 1x of 109 feet at 100 yards. For me, anything over 100 is good, and anything over 110 is excellent. So this is on the border of being excellent, but again, in a 1-8 package, that is very, very good. So 109 feet of field of view means that you can see quite a bit when looking through your optic at 1x, and of course that translates to any magnification that you're at, so it does have quite good field of view. On top of that, they quote the eye relief at 3.5 inches, and it is quite a bit more generous than that at 1x. For instance, at 1x magnification, you can be about 2 inches away, and then back up to about 6 or 7 before you get really any fading whatsoever. It has a very, very forgiving eye relief at 1x, which is quite nice. On top of that, in the optimal position, you still get quite good eye box for your up, down, left, and right. So in terms of field of view, eye box, eye relief, all of that sort of stuff, the optic does a very, very good job. Now, talking about the glass quality, if you look through this optic and it's in broad daylight, you're going to be very, very happy with it because it does have good brightness and good clarity. It's very crisp. It doesn't have a lot of distortion around the edges. The colors look very, very nice. However, it is not going to compare in terms of sharpness or overall clarity or flatness of the image at 1x. When you go up to higher end scopes like the Viper and the HDs and other scopes like that, they are going to beat it out in terms of overall clarity and glass quality. Now, where most budget glass really starts to suffer is going to be in non-optimal lighting conditions. So for instance, if you have sun hitting the front or the back of the glass itself, it's not really going to be able to cut through that with whatever coatings that they're using. It does have a little bit more glare than higher end optics. And on top of that, if you're in low light or in kind of that gray hour, it's not going to be the crispest and clearest just because it needs more light for the glass to operate properly than something that has a better light transmission like higher end optics. So it is going to suffer a little bit in low light conditions where, again, it's not optimal, you can still make it work, but just know that it's not going to be the brightest optic in the world. And again, it's not going to compare to optics that cost 2, 3, 4, and 5 times as much. Another thing that is quite nice about this optic is that it is, of course, an illuminated reticle. This optic has the Vortex AR BDC3 reticle, which is a very, very good reticle. We'll talk about that in just a second. But the brightness on the reticle itself at 11, because it has 11 different brightness settings, doesn't really have a night vision setting, though again, using night vision on a low-end LPVO is a little bit optimistic. But at its maximum brightness with a fresh battery in it, it gets quite bright. I would consider it daylight bright. It's not going to be like red dot, aimpoint, EOTech bright, but it is going to be more than bright enough to illuminate the horseshoe and the center dot to give you a very fine aiming point, and I really like it quite a bit. So in terms of speed, I don't really find that this optic hinders me up close when I'm shooting fast. I am able to pick up whatever target, use that red illuminated reticle, align my sights, and pull the trigger as fast as I want. Now, talking about the reticle itself, it is a very simple BDC reticle, which I quite like. It has a lot of features jam-packed into it. So basically, you have standard BDC holds out to 600 yards with 5.56 ammunition, and that can translate very closely to 308 as well. It also has 5 and 10 mile an hour wind holds, so depending on where you are, that could be very, very handy. In Western Washington, where I live, it does not get very windy, but of course that BDC will still line up. And I have used this optic out to 550 yards on multiple different guns and was able to make first round impacts at 550 yards with both an ACR and a 16-inch regular AR. Not this AR, but another AR. I was able to make first round impacts at 500 yards. Hit. Hit.
Oh boy.
Off to the left edge.
Nice shot.
Now, on top of that, in the top half of the glass, it also has auto ranging in there. So basically, if you don't know what distance you're shooting at and you know the size of your target, you can figure out approximately what distance they're at, then use the BDC to line up your shot, take your shot, and theoretically allow you to get a first round impact without doing too much guesswork, so you can actually figure out how far away your target is. Though again, you do need to know your target size, and this is based off of man-sized targets. Now, one downside to some people, but not really to me, is going to be the fact that the entire reticle does not illuminate. Only the center dot and the outer horseshoe illuminate. For me, that's actually better. That means that that part that does illuminate can get brighter, and it doesn't have to power the entire reticle, which means battery life will decrease even further. And battery life on LPVOs is not great. Generally, you're looking at anywhere from 200 to 1,000 hours, depending on the LPVO, brightness, reticle, all that sort of fun stuff. This one here, I've replaced the battery on it a couple times over the years, or over the year that I've had it, so I wouldn't say that the battery life is exceptional, though again, I run it on maximum brightness because that is the most usable in daytime conditions. And since I'm not taking low light shots beyond 300 yards, I don't really need the BDC to light up all that much. Now, if I haven't mentioned it already, these are of course capped turrets, which are my favorite for LPVOs. I prefer just simple capped turrets since I'm mostly going to be shooting up close with the ability to shoot longer. Since I have a BDC reticle in here that works quite well in my opinion and experience, I don't need to quickly adjust my turrets on the fly. That being said, they are half MOA, which is more than precise enough for me, and the Windage cap actually holds an extra 2032 battery in it, which is quite nice. So even though you do have reduced battery, you have storage for an extra battery on your optic itself. So if your optic goes dim or the battery dies, you can quickly switch it out with the extra one that you keep in the Windage knob. Now, the clicks themselves on the turrets are not all that great. They're very mushy. You can hear them quite well, but they are pretty mushy, so not all that great. But again, they're more of a set and forget type of design, so I really don't care all that much because again, generally I set it and forget it. Now, something that I do with all of my optics that I test is I go ahead and I do a double drop test. Now, I have a personal review of this optic again about a year ago on the channel where I did a double drop test. and experienced very, very little shift in zero. That being said, I have used it for that entire year since then, and I went ahead and I did another double drop test on this optic from, again, shoulder height. So one on the top of the optic, one on the side of the optic from shoulder height, as that is a fairly standard height for you to be holding your gun, is about shoulder height. So that's probably about the worst impact that it's going to have.
Alrighty, so that is hitting just a little bit low and right. I'm aiming dead center to target about 250 with 69 grain reloads. Don't know the exact zero distance on it. It's hitting a little bit to the right with these. On the top of the optic from shoulder height. Yes, the gun is unloaded, of course. We check before we do that, so we don't catch around to the face. And then one on the side of the optic. And let's see if it held zero at 250. Alright, again with the same 69 grain reloads. Alright, let's see. Fast. The zero doesn't appear to have shifted all that much. It's still hitting in the same area. Also, I'm shooting, you know, not crazy well supported on here. So overall, yes, there is some shift in zero. However, inside of 200-300 yards, really doesn't matter.
So before the drop test, I fired 5 rounds at 250 yards on an 11.5 by 20 man-sized target. I was aiming center mass, and the impacts were hitting just low and right for my 69 grain reloads that I was using. And then I did the double drop test, then fired 5 more rounds at, again, 500 yards at the exact same target, and the group did shift a tiny amount at 250 yards, though again, not really going to make that big of a deal inside of 200, 300, or even 400 yards. So I don't think that this is going to perfectly hold zero after very, very harsh drops, though I have dropped it 4 times now. The optic has not broken, and of course it does come with Vortex's excellent lifetime warranty and customer service, which fortunately I haven't had to use on this optic whatsoever. It has survived 4 drops intentionally, not to mention any other drops that I have accidentally done with the optic over the year plus that I've owned it. So overall, the zero retention through recoil has been absolutely flawless. I've never had an issue with it coming unzeroed from recoil, and even after shoulder height drop test, you really wouldn't need to re-zero it inside of 300 yards. Only if you were going to be taking your gun further or shooting at much smaller targets would you need to really check your zero, although you always should check your zero after a harsh impact. So not only will it survive those harsh impacts, even multiples 2, 3, and 4, at least in my case with my mounts that I'm using it on. I've done it on a couple different mounts. So it is going to hold up, and it is going to keep you on target. And again, remember, the price point of this optic by itself right now is around $300, and sometimes you can find it on an excellent deal. If you go ahead and check out gun.deals, you can find this optic plus a high quality mount, a $70, $80 mount, for around $330 shipped. And now that is an exceptional deal, and there's always sales going on these guys. They are excellent scopes, which is why, even though they're not necessarily the best scope in this price point, there are some scopes at around $400 that are going to be a little nicer, have a little bit nicer features. However, there is no scope, in my personal opinion, that provides as much value as this optic does for the money, because this optic does basically everything exceptionally well. You have great eye relief, great field of view, great eye box, good enough glass for, again, the price that you're paying for. You have a very good reticle, you have very good reticle illumination, you have very good durability, and you have good zero holding even after very aggressive drops. So in terms of more to ask at this price point, I don't really think you can do it. Again, I'm a huge fan of this optic. I've owned multiple 1-8s, the 1-6s as well, which can be found even cheaper. I prefer the 1-8, just it has a little bit better of a 1X in my opinion, a little bit more flat, but either the 1-6 or the 1-8 are excellent options. So that about does it for the optic. Once again, go ahead and check them out on Gun Deals. Just either use the search bar on Gun Deals to look for the Strike Eagle, or check the UPC in the description, type it into your favorite search bar, and you should be able to find the gun.deals link. So that is about it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what your guys' favorite budget scope is in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.